The President of the United States woke up and declared war on journalists, the media, and our free press. Before heading off to his private golf course, shielded from the headlines and the country he's tearing apart, Donald J. Trump started the day in his gilded palace at Mar-a-Lago, surrounded by enablers, getting ready for another leisurely day at a course he owns and we pay him to use. But before he left in his motorcade of flashing lights and taxpayer-funded security, he took a few minutes to further destroy the integrity of our free press, and he shared this. We need more competition against the enemy, the fake news national TV networks. Letting good deals get done, like Nexstar-Tegna, will help knock out the fake news because there will be more competition and at a higher and more sophisticated level. Those that are opposed don't fully understand how good the concept of this deal is for them, but they will in the future. And then in all capitals, get that deal done. President DJT. But true to the propaganda that comes out of the White House these days, what Trump is saying is the complete opposite of what this proposed merger actually means. Even Trump himself voiced his criticism against it in November, saying, if this would also allow the radical left networks to enlarge, I would not be happy. Which raises the question, was there some sort of payoff and a guarantee that it wouldn't directly or indirectly allow left-leaning mergers to happen? Or is this administration simply ready to take the next big leap in the authoritarian playbook because they think we won't notice until it's too late? Because this isn't about media competition. It's about concentrating a dangerous percentage of the market under one company, crushing dissent, silencing truth, and handing control of the national narrative to a single far-right corporation already aligned with his regime. If the deal goes through, Nexstar would take control of Tegna, a company that already owns 64 local news stations in 51 markets across the country. Nexstar already owns or operates over 200 stations in 116 markets, along with national outlets like News Nation, The CW, and The Hill. Those are a lot of numbers, but together this merger would give a single company reach to more than 80% of our local television markets in the United States. That would decimate competition and create a monopoly. Right now, the FCC has a cap. A rule that says no single company can reach more than 39% of U.S. households through its broadcast stations. That cap exists for a reason. It's to protect local journalism and ensure diversity of coverage, and prevent one political or corporate interest from controlling what Americans see and hear. This merger would give them even more power to shape the news we see on our local TV stations, where so many Americans come to understand what is happening in the world and in their own communities. This is especially concerning in the places where people's trust stops with their local anchors, and it does not extend to national networks or even social media. Because under this merger, many of their stations would fall under Nexstar's conservative-leaning umbrella. Nexstar has a history of aligning with Trump's messaging. When the White House was angry about Jimmy Kimmel, Nexstar and Sinclair pulled Kimmel's show from dozens of local affiliates, only later to reinstate it after public backlash, because it works. They've also been building up News Nation to appear neutral on the surface, while slowly performing more and more far-right voices. This is about stripping away the last remaining guardrails in local media and replacing them with a single, state-aligned voice. And Trump knows exactly what he's doing by pushing this through. He's replacing trusted anchors with talking points crafted to serve him. And if this is approved, this merger would solidify the media wing of the authoritarian regime. And once it's done, it would be nearly impossible to undo. There is a Senate hearing this week, and that's why he's posting about it, because he's trying to tip the scales with intimidation and pressure. We need to make sure our senators know that we see exactly what this is, and that we do not approve of this merger. And the timing is on our side right now to push back, because behind closed doors, Republican senators are panicking. According to private polling reported by Axios, many of them are starting to realize they might not be able to hold their seats in 2026. Not just in swing places, but in places like Alaska and Iowa and Ohio. And even in Texas, they could be in play. They know what's coming, and they know that Trump, he's a liability. They know that. That's why the pressure we apply right now really matters. because this is exactly how authoritarian regimes operate. In Russia, this kind of media consolidation, it's the blueprint. And under Vladimir Putin, independent outlets were slowly swallowed up by state-friendly corporations. Journalists have been forced off air, and dissenting voices were either jailed, exiled, or silenced. The government didn't start by shutting everything down at once. They started by installing allies at the top of media conglomerates, and then quietly buying out regional stations, and then using state regulators to threaten, fine, and dismantle any outlets that refused to play along. And even by the early 2000s, nearly all major television networks in Russia were fully controlled by the Kremlin or its allies. News has become nothing more than a tool to reinforce power and to bury the truth, and of course to confuse the public. This is how they erase the truth about Ukraine. This is how they convince their own citizens that resistance was betrayal. And now we're seeing that exact same playbook unfold here through Truth Social posts and government-backed corporate takeovers. And then his Truth Social shares that he broadcasts everywhere from Mar-a-Lago and his Florida golf course while the world watches. Russian influence and the Russian way of governing continue to grow here in the United States because we just learned, thanks to reporting by The Guardian, that last spring the NSA intercepted a phone call between a foreign intelligence source and someone close to Donald Trump. And this is important. This call was flagged as highly sensitive. NSA officials prepared to distribute the report through the standard internal process, but Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard stepped in. She took a physical copy, hand-delivered it to Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles. Then she instructed the NSA not to publish or share it with anyone else. That report has now been buried for 8 months. A whistleblower filed a formal complaint saying Gabbard blocked the report from reaching Congress. And under federal law, when a whistleblower files that kind of complaint, it should reach Congress within 21 days. Instead, Gabbard's office appears to have delayed it for months, then finally sent members of the Gang of Eight, the senators and the House leaders, who are privy to classified information from the executive branch, a heavily redacted version for review. And here's what makes it even more alarming. Gabbard assigned one of her own top political advisors, Dennis Kirk, to the Intelligence Watchdog Office, the very office that's supposed to investigate her. That same advisor helped write Project 2025, the Trump regime's blueprint for dismantling democratic institutions. Now, Gabbard has denied any wrongdoing and blames it on Biden-era intelligence officials. This is not how oversight works in a democracy. This is how it works in Russia. And this all leaves me asking, what kind of country have we become where any of this is just another day in America? We have masked men rounding up immigrants in the streets, handpicking loyalists, burying intelligence reports, and the president himself calling the free press the enemy, while he's pushing to put a single far-right company in 80% of our local news markets. And somehow, life just keeps going on. Last night I went out to dinner, and as I sat there listening to the conversation around me about job loss and the endless search for something new, soaring healthcare costs, impossible childcare decisions, working multiple jobs just to stay afloat, and getting by with less, I kept thinking about how this past year has broken so many people in so many ways. But not once did I hear anyone say what's actually causing it. Not once. It was all spoken like it was just inevitable. Like this is just how life is now. But it's not. Trump's tariffs have driven up prices. His policies have triggered job losses. His entire authoritarian playbook is about consolidating wealth at the very top, keeping his enablers rich while so many are pushed into survival mode. Because people struggling to survive are easier to scare, and they're easier to divide, and they're much easier to control. And that is the plan. This is all happening fast, but also just slow enough that people aren't connecting the dots. And that's exactly how it happened in the 1930s in Germany. Dachau opened just weeks after Hitler became chancellor. But those early camps were for political prisoners, dissidents, communists, anyone who pushed back. It took 8 years to get from Dachau to the gas chambers. 8 years of dehumanizing specific groups, of propaganda, of police violence, and of the control of information. 8 years of people looking the other way and of loyalists being placed where watchdogs used to be. The systematic extermination, the final solution, didn't begin until 1941, and each step normalized the next. We are still in the early years of that time frame now. The dehumanizing of immigrants, the purging of independent watchdogs, placement of loyalists in positions meant to check power, attacks on a free press, and the use of law enforcement as a political weapon. And of course, the normalization of all this cruelty. None of this is the end of the story, but every historian who studies this period will tell you that we are deep into the opening act of the story. But we still have time to stop it. And that's why we have to be honest about where we are. Our job is to call it out loudly and repeatedly. And I know it can feel overwhelming because the truth is, we don't have the tools right now to end this in one clean move. We don't have a lever to pull. The only thing that would stop it in its tracks would be a full national shutdown. If enough people stopped working, stopped shopping and complying, and filled the streets every single day, this regime would crumble under its own weight. They can arrest people, but they can't arrest everyone. Local law enforcement would eventually start to flip. So would some of the politicians still propping him up, not because they would care, but because they'd realize the ship is sinking and they'd want off. But until that happens, our job is to slow everything down. Every delay matters. Every legal ruling that follows the law instead of the regime buys us more time. And we're seeing that now with judges who are still ruling based on facts and precedent. Even if the decisions get appealed later, it's still causing friction. And so is protest. I know it can feel small, but it's not. Every time you refuse to be silent online, in your community, and in your spending, it matters. When you show up with a sign, when you support independent media, when you shop local, when you speak out, when you're slowing them down, you're reminding other people that they're not alone. You're sending a message to those in power that we still see what they're doing, and we're not okay with it. If we weren't doing all of that, if there was no resistance at all, we would be in a much darker place. Everything we've done and everything we continue to do has made a huge impact. We know this because Trump is lashing out. His administration is burying whistleblower reports, trying to merge media empires, and rewriting laws at breakneck speed because public pressure is working. We know this because they're scared of the truth getting out, and they should be. Because we are ready for the fight ahead. We're not going quiet. I'm still working nonstop to make sure the truth outshadows the lies. And I understand the importance of reaching people where they are, which is why I'm grateful to share that my daily posts are now available as a podcast. You can hear each one in my voice on all the major platforms just by searching Heather Delaney Reese or Hope for America on your favorite listening app. To those of you who've supported this work through paid memberships, thank you. You are the reason this is possible. Because of you, I've been able to expand how these messages are shared and still keep every word completely free from paywalls. That's not easy, but it matters. We have to make sure the truth is accessible to everyone, including the people who don't even know they need to hear it yet. We have important work ahead, and we're going to need each other to get through the midterms. What helps me is to have an action plan. For now, I'm still focusing on supporting independent media and journalists, while refusing to support companies that continue to back Trump and his enablers. I remind myself daily that nothing is perfect, but every choice, every decision we make counts. Even when the options aren't ideal, every move we make adds up. I'm also talking about the terrible things happening in this country every chance I get, online and off. I'm encouraging as many people as I can, and especially women, to prepare now for the restrictions we know are coming. If you've changed your name since birth, make a plan to get your paperwork in order. Have your documents ready. Create a paper trail that connects all of your names you have used, because this regime is counting on confusion, on silence, and voter suppression, and we're not giving them any of it. They're counting on being able to limit who can vote, delay registration, and intimidate people into staying home, but we're not letting that happen. And through all of this, I'm also choosing joy, meaning, and community, because they don't get to take that from us. No matter how much power they hoard or how much fear they try to spread, they cannot take away who we are. That stand right there is what gives me hope for America, because that's what it truly means to be American, to resist with purpose, to protect what's good, and to never let them rewrite who we are. And you should feel that hope too. And if you've made it this far, we're probably on the same page and definitely on the same side of history. I'm working hard to spread this message and reach as many people as possible. So if you can, please take a moment, make sure you're subscribed to my channel, like this video, leave a comment, anything to let the algorithm know to show it to more people. And for my daily posts, you can find me on Substack by searching Heather Delaney Reese, and I've included the link below. And remember, no matter how dark the days get, I will be here every single day, and together, we will always find hope for America. I'll see you tomorrow.